thank you guys for joining us, and congratulations on this amazing, beautiful show.
Thank you.
Where there's going to be a lot to talk about for sure, and probably more than we have allotted time. Can I just start by asking you both to describe your characters? Because I always find there's going to be something interesting there that none of us have thought of.
Oh, wow.
You want me to start?
Yeah, please.
Well, hi everybody. Thank you for going through this with us. I took a photo of you because I wanted to document it. But I play Maximus. He's what you call a member of the Brotherhood of Steel in the Wasteland. He at one time had a family, and because of tragic events, he lost that family and became an orphan in the Wasteland. So Maximus is, I think, a young man who struggles with not just his identity, but his desires. I think something that was really important for me when I started playing the part was this old, it's a Shakespeare play, Julius Caesar, and they described a character from it as Cassius, as having like an ambition, like a hungry dog. And that really struck with me in the Wasteland. I mean, this all starts from imagining things that we don't go through in our normal days. So he's, whether he understands what he's after or not, I think he goes about it in a very desperate sort of way. He's very head first in our first season. I have to say that because our writers are so incredible. They show us one thing and subvert it, within 10 minutes, and these characters are continuing to develop. But he's special to me.
He is, yeah. He is special. Okay, I play the same person at two very different times in their life, right? I play Cooper Howard, who was kind of a Western movie star in the world before the bombs dropped for the nuclear war. And then the same person who is known as the Ghoul, 200 years after walking an irradiated landscape. And for me, it was an incredible opportunity on the page. The first time I read it, when we kind of set out to do it, I thought, okay, well, I have to understand who Cooper Howard is, to understand what his life was like, and his job, and his wife, and his child, to really to flesh out that world in order to really viscerally understand what it is that he lost, right? Which informed the experience of playing the Ghoul for me. He's a person who has walked and survived a nuclear fallout and has walked this wasteland for 200 years and has seen the worst that humanity has to offer. And he's smart, practical. He's got a lot of swagger and a bit of a rascal, but also emotionless. He's a person who was filled with humanity, obviously, before the bombs dropped, and then a person who is barely hanging on to a measure of his humanity 200 years later.
It's these are beautiful descriptions, and I love this point that this is your characters as of now. Like you, especially, given that there will be a season 2, you're going to find out more about this backstory that you then have to play in the present without contradicting anything that any decisions you've already made for the character and all of that. This thing is this art form is always just in flux, right? It's always just, especially for TV. And you mentioned Shakespeare too, and I'm glad we already have a Shakespeare reference in this talk. Training. Where did you train? How did it come into play with this? Or did you pull out new skills for this show?
Yes, well, I went to Juilliard, is what we're alluding to. That's where I trained. It was very important to me, I think, to go to college, but that was my journey. It certainly informed this work. I mean, most jobs we do, we really are pretending things that are a little more mundane than Fallout. The Tuesday on Fallout is a monster chasing you, and you just have to know how to keep your body in shape. There was an audible gasp last time I said this. I hope it doesn't happen this time. I'm 35. No, but I'm 35. So my body just doesn't rebound the same as it used to.
Yes.
No, it was really vital to bring, you know, what was a really crazy training program at Juilliard. It's like maybe the stamina was starting to develop from having gone through that. To take on a job like this. When normally at work, I sit in a diner and I pretend to drink coffee and talk to a friend. You know what I mean? This I think took a lot more of all of us to really not just make a performance in a day, but to do it the next day as well and the following, and we did that in that sort of way for 8 months.
I am 52. Gas, we need gas. We don't usually talk this loud. We're doing it because we don't know. That's a little fucking weird. Okay, I have a question. This is SAG, which I've been a member for 30 years. How many actors do we have in this room? Okay. So to answer your question, I had no, I didn't go to college for storytelling, if you will. I'm a poor kid from Georgia who had a dream. I got a scholastic scholarship to a really small college in South Georgia called Georgia Southern. I got a credit card invitation, the first piece of mail I ever got addressed to me, right, when I checked in, and it was an American Express advertisement and a card, if you will, an invitation to join American Express. But for that, by getting the card, you would get 2 round-trip tickets, right? This is in 1991. And the round-trip tickets were $99 east of the Mississippi or $199 west of the Mississippi. This is back when a flight was $1,200 to Los Angeles. And so I looked at that and I thought, oh yeah, I'm quitting college and I'm going to Los Angeles. That's what I'm gonna do. And I finished my first year. And then I flew out to LA and then flew back and drove across country. I was 19 years old. I had $300 in my pocket, and I knew no one, right? I'd started working in Georgia.
Look at you now.
Yeah, I just say that because we're all in this shit together, man. We're all just trying to figure it out, right? And what is the story? And what are we looking for from this experience? I am that guy, right? When I got here, I had been working in Georgia before that when I was started at 15 years old and done a few things in Georgia, but one of note. But when I got here, I was really lucky. I got an agent, kind of right away because of the work that I'd done in Georgia, right? And that's the chicken or the egg, right? What comes first and how do you kind of begin that process? And then I started working with a teacher and a guy named David LeGrant. And Toby Maguire was in class, and just a few people, and before Toby had really done anything, and he taught me a lot. But it wasn't until I was doing this movie, I was 21 years old, and I saw this woman that I was working with. Her name was Kirsten, and she was so good, but more importantly, she was so happy, right? She was doing the work effortlessly, and there was no pain in the experience for her. And I just asked her, I said, why, how do you do what you do? And she became a dear friend, and she said, okay, I'm gonna give you a phone number. If you call this phone number, your life will fundamentally change. And it was an acting teacher by the name of Harry Mastro George. And so I did call this number. I did go to work with this guy, and the very first thing when I got there, and it was very simple, he just said, look, everything I can teach you in 5 minutes, and it's for free, and you'll save yourself a lot of money and a lot of time. First and foremost, it's a child's game, right? It's turning yourself over to an imaginary set of circumstances. If you talk to a child and you say, I want you to play Anne Boleyn, the first thing a child will say is, who's Anne Boleyn? Then you tell them, and then they'll play that. It's no more it's no more complicated or simple than that. And over the course of my time with this man, of which I spent a decade, 10 years. And all of the people that were in this class and in this experience, he only quoted 3 people: Anthony Hopkins, Jessica Tandy, and Robert Duvall. And he just said, listen, they read the script 250 times, and they turn themselves over to an imaginary set of circumstances. I was 21 when I went into this class. When I was 24, I did The Apostle with Robert Duvall, and I was in Louisiana, and he became a dear friend of mine. And the first time we went out to dinner, I said, okay, tell me if this is bullshit. This is what my teacher says you do. And he said, that's exactly what I do. 2 years later, and he's still a friend of mine, has been a friend of mine for a very long time. 2 years later, I worked with Anthony Hopkins. And I said, okay, I got a question for you, Tony. Is this bullshit or is this what you do? And he said, I read the script 250 times and I turn myself over to an imaginary set of circumstances. It's that simple. And that's the joy that you find in it. So that was my education, and my education was on the streets and going to work every day and just watching and listening to people that knew a hell of a lot more than I did.
Beautiful, and there's some great advice in there. It also begs the question, especially considering the fallout aspect of this career. Like, I love this point that maybe most acting jobs are more mundane, and then this is an exception. But regardless, it's all about, let's figure out who the character is and let's lean into those circumstances. What is your relationship with source material when it comes to adaptations? Do you have like rules about, here's the checklist I go down when I'm playing a real person or playing something that's based on a book, comic book, TV show, movie, whatever it is? And correct me if I'm wrong, Fallout is an unusual case of that. And neither of you have really done a video game adaptation.
I have.
You
I have. I did
Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider.
I just played with a friend of mine. Was Maze Runner, was that
It was a book.
That was a book. Okay, that was, yeah. But Tomb Raider, yeah. Tomb Raider and, Tomb Raider.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have those, does that same Anthony Hopkins, Robert Duvall rule apply in terms of source material? Do you need to play 2,000 hours of Fallout before you?
Well, no, but you need to read the script 250 times.
Still reading a script.
Yeah, that's what you do. That's the work that you put in, and that only allows you an opportunity to turn yourself over to an imaginary set of circumstances in a real way. That's the way that I approach it, and this is predicated on, again, this teacher and these people. But no, I think this guy was a radical guy, and I wasn't alone in his class. I don't think you play a character, honestly. I don't think you make choices. I think you read something 250 times. It's no different doing this than it is doing the Laura Ingalls Wilder movie of the week I did in 1999. It's the same, right? You just do the work, and you show up, and you do the best with what you've got and the time that you've got.
That sounds like it's for any genre, for any format.
For any genre, any format. I mean, I've played a few real people. I just did this movie with Casey Affleck. I think actors have different approaches to it, right? If you're playing somebody real, do you want to meet that person? And if that's confusing to you, will that upset your process? Or do you want to keep it in the dark and just come up with it yourself and do an amalgamation of what you think this person is? Well, I've done it a few different ways. But I just did this movie called Dreamin' Wild with Casey about these two brothers that made this album in the 1970s. I didn't have a choice on whether or not to meet Joe Emerson because we filmed at their house, right? So we became really good friends with them. And I'm so happy that I did, and I just okay, that's how he walks. Oh, he talks this way. Oh, okay, so you can kind of throw that in there, but it's still your own, you have to come from your own interpretation of it and from the heart. If you're honest, then the audience will believe it.
Yeah.
I don't disagree at all. I think though, I always think of it like every time you're reading the script through, it's like you create bruises on yourself. And it's all just for other people to affect you.
Right.
You're sensitive to different things because you've read them 200, 250 times.
Yeah.
And that's how it sort of works. I know Walt and I have the same feeling about, we all can notice an actor showing up on set, and it's part of the logic of how things work, but it's like their big dramatic scene. And we both have the same feelings on this because we share thoughts with each other, but it is maybe the most important time to throw whatever work you think you've done out and continue to listen to your scene partner and continue to deal with the things that you can't imagine are going to be there when you show up to work, like the weather or, you know, the camera technical difficulties that we're going to find, you know, in the middle of the shoot day. I mean, there's so much X factor that you just don't know, so you have to continue to do what the jazz musicians say of leave that window cracked for the spirit to come in. Whatever's going to happen happens. What is given to you is gold, you know, so that you continue to play and continue to find it, you know, for the camera, especially in this, you know, filming situation. Find it for the camera so that it is real. I mean, because I don't think anyone likes really watching an actor in the control room.
Sure.
I think it's less interesting. It's more interesting and more exciting, I think, as an audience member to see someone who's alive. That's why we love the Jack Nicholsons, the Robert Duvalls. That's why they feel alive to us, because they're just reacting to what is happening in front of them.
Totally. What were the challenges? Were there any giant surprises? Maybe anything that in the filming of this that changed your conception of the character or your arc or your direction?
For me, it was the makeup. You know, like that's why I didn't fully understand that. It was the jacket with when the spurs would get caught in the thing. It's like an almost face planting, and I don't know really. It's like, oh, okay, not going to do that. You know, and it was the teeth. It was just understanding. It's like a Ferrari, that thing. It's like.
Oh, wow.
Because it's so expensive?
Well, yeah. Yeah, but you kind of take it for a drive and just go, okay, well, what I didn't know when we first put it on, I've said this in other interviews, I didn't know what the audience, what I could convey to the audience, right? I was extremely uncomfortable and insecure about that. And after, you know, a couple of days of looking at Jonathan Nolan, Jonah, our director, saying, are you reading any of this? Is any of this coming through? He said, you have it. It's all in your eyes. Don't worry, we're picking up everything that you have. So that for me was the biggest impediment, playing the ghoul right out of the gate. And you had your own.
Yeah, the suit.
The suit, man.
Yeah, the suit is just so heavy. I wear the top half with a motorized helmet, which is different even than the helmet that our stunt performer Adam gets to wear. Adam's full suit is 110 pounds. The top half with the motorized helmet is 50, 60. And it would be the case of, 11, 12-hour shoot day, you need help. You also, I think Walt and I are the same in that we don't complain. I find if something's difficult and challenging, it's difficult and challenging, and that's maybe it's part of what's influencing the character and what's going on with that person in that moment. So to sit there and really try and get through it is it's difficult. But yeah, it was such a surprise and such a shock, and it kind of created this amazing relationship that I have with our stunt performer Adam, where we started relying on each other. If he was playing me in the suit, if he wasn't playing me, I was like, you're on your own. No, but we would literally, there's funny photos that we have of each other coming up behind the other to hold up the suit off of our shoulders, just for a breather while cameras are setting up, because it felt like after 20 minutes in it, you were like, I can barely breathe. I can barely breathe, how am I gonna last? So yeah, that was a challenge that really, curved the experience in a way that we had to really kind of figure out how to make all those things come together. And Jonah did an amazing thing. I mean, we have 4 different versions of that suit to make it come to life. There's the statuesque version that we were calling the clamshell. It closes behind you as if you're activating the thing. The full suit that can move, the half suit, and then inside the helmet, And Iron Man exists. I kept making that joke to Jonah. I was like, hey, dude, they did it. And he was like, no, we're gonna find our own version. And I'm really happy he had that kind of that is Jonah. He's very cavalier, he's very forward-moving, and he really has a technical proficiency to, cameras, effects. It's like the conductor of an orchestra who's played every instrument, you know what I mean? He knows how to talk to every department, he knows how to put us all together to figure it out, so, yeah.
I just love actors, man. I just love being in this room, honestly. It's, I've dedicated my life to, maybe like the rest of us in this room. And, I would say that, at least for me, and it happened pretty early on. Somebody, gave me permission to do this. And I maybe this is a collaborative, active kind of conversation, and there's some questions from these guys, but I don't have anything figured out, I mean, I have an idea, right? An idea of kind of what it is, but that's what this medium is for. It's you're there to play. And if play is the thing, right? And so one take is just a take. It's just an opportunity up at bat. And the second one is going to be radically different than the first one, or at least variably different than the first one, if you listen to the other person that you're working with, right? And the only thing that matters to me, honestly, is the stage, if you will, like being on the boards, is the quiet and the respect of the space once everybody has done all of their shit, right? All the lights and the this and that and the fucking makeup, excuse my language, but it means a lot to me. Then I am at a place and have been at a place and have worked with other people that taught me this, that everything is quiet, everybody be quiet. It's now the time is for the magic to happen, right? And the magic happens between me and you. You looking into my eyes and I'm looking into your eyes. And then they call action. And once you have that space, there is no wrong answer. You can do whatever you want. The director might not like it. And then he'll tell you what he does like. And then you can do a version of that. So you'll have what? You're gonna have more than one take. Chances are you'll have more than two. You probably don't need more than three most of the time. If you get four, hey man, you've gotten everything that you want to do. So that's playing the ghoul. I didn't know who Cooper Howard was. We filmed how many people here have seen the show? Have you? Okay, the very first scene of the show is the show where I'm not giving anything away. I mean, you can see it at a trailer online. Yeah, it starts at the party, right, and the bombs drop. I didn't really completely understand in that moment that it was going to be through Cooper Howard's eyes that the rest of the world was going to experience the end of the world, and that my daughter is there beside me, and how viscerally that experience would be for me. I'm not looking at bombs drop, just like Richard Dreyfuss and Close Encounters of the Third Kind wasn't looking at an alien, he was looking at a grip's ass, right? And so you just take that time for yourself, I guess is what I'm saying. Take that time and just make it your own,
That's really nice to hear. I've always been on the periphery in film and TV. This is a new place for me.
Yeah.
Where people give me that time because I'm in the place where I am. But I always remembered feeling like I could take that time, and it was important to. It's one of those things when you never know by the time something is edited and what they need and what they want from you, but I think it's important to always have our work, you know what I mean? I don't know if you feel, I wanted to ask you, Walt, I hope you guys don't mind, I geek out about Walt. But like, you were talking about not having anything figured out, and I love to hear that because it makes me feel more comfortable. But do you feel like you're reinventing the wheel every time you step into a new project?
Honestly?
Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Honestly, I do. I'm doing the White Lotus right now, and I say that I'm fucking scared out of my mind, like showing up, and I really don't know, so I think anybody worth their weight, I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, they can tell you, like, yeah, I have it figured out. No, you don't, and that's the part of it. It's the getting in there. You didn't have Maximus figured out from day one. We talked about that and what that was like for you. And that this is you're so fucking good in this, man. You know. And I only, but we're having this conversation too. I haven't seen it. But it's a lot, man. It's a lot to step into that, to have that shot. It's a lot. And so, yeah. I don't think if you love it that much, then you will always have fight or flight, always, because it means that much to you, and that's a part of figuring it out, if that makes sense.